Korean Mafia boss lost his maid to deportation and did the impossible for love. Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Drop a like if you love stories of impossible love and desperate choices, and let me know in the comments, what state or country are you watching from today? I love seeing how far this community reaches across the globe. Now, let's begin. Los Angeles, California. The city of angels and demons, where palm trees swayed against a skyline of impossible wealth and crushing poverty, existed side by side, separated only by a few blocks and a universe of opportunity. In the hills above the glittering chaos, where mansions perched like eagles surveying their domain, one estate stood apart from the rest, not because of its size, though it was massive, not because of its architecture, though it was stunning, but because of the man who owned it, Park Jae-min. To the outside world, he was a successful businessman, a Korean-American entrepreneur who had built a tech empire from nothing, whose face graced the covers of Forbes and Bloomberg, whose charitable donations funded hospitals and schools across 3 continents. He attended galas with movie stars, played golf with senators, and had once been photographed shaking hands with the president. But those who knew the truth understood that Jae-min's real empire existed in the shadows. At 36 years old, he controlled the largest Korean organized crime syndicate on the West Coast. His grandfather had started it in Koreatown in the 1970s, a small operation that protected immigrant businesses from gangs and corrupt officials. His father had expanded it into something more ambitious, more ruthless, more profitable, and Jae-min had transformed it into an operation so sophisticated that it existed in plain sight, hidden behind layers of legitimate businesses and impeccable legal representation. They called him the Ghost of K-Town, though never to his face. When Jae-min decided someone needed to disappear, they vanished so completely that even their families wondered if they had ever existed at all. But power, Jae-min had learned, was a lonely throne. His estate in the Hollywood Hills was a fortress disguised as a home. Security systems that rivaled government installations, staff who had been vetted more thoroughly than CIA operatives, gates that could withstand a tank assault, hidden behind elegant wrought iron that looked merely decorative. He had everything a man could want and nothing a man actually needed. Everything in his life was calculated, controlled, precise. Everything except her. Elena Vargas arrived at the Park estate on a Wednesday morning in late September, when the California sun was still brutal and the Santa Ana winds carried the threat of fire season. She was 28 years old, with warm brown skin and dark hair that she kept pulled back in a practical bun. Her clothes were simple but immaculately clean, a white blouse and black pants that she had pressed 3 times that morning to ensure not a single wrinkle remained. In her hands, she clutched a folder containing her employment documents. Well, most of her employment documents. The ones that mattered. The ones that proved she had a legal right to work in this country. Those were fake. Good fakes. The best that money could buy in the underground economy of undocumented immigrants, but fake nonetheless. Elena had been in the United States for 12 years. She had crossed the border from Mexico when she was 16, following her mother who had followed her father, who had followed the promise of something better than the poverty and violence they had left behind. For 12 years, she had worked and saved and prayed and hoped, waiting for a pathway to citizenship that never seemed to materialize. She had tried to do it the right way, had applied for every program, every amnesty, every opportunity that came along. But the system was a labyrinth designed by people who had never faced the choices her family had faced, and every door seemed to lead to another wall. So she worked, under the table when she had to, with borrowed papers when she could. She paid taxes with an ITIN number, contributed to a social security system she would never benefit from, and lived in constant fear of a knock on the door that would end everything. The employment agency that had placed her at the Park estate was one of the reputable ones, which meant they didn't ask too many questions about documents that looked legitimate enough. The pay was exceptional, nearly 4 times what she had made at her previous job cleaning office buildings at night. The hours were long, but the work was straightforward, and she needed this job desperately. What she carried in her heart, the secret that drove her forward despite the fear that lived in her chest like a second heartbeat, was worth any risk. The gate opened after she pressed the intercom button and stated her name. She walked up a driveway that seemed to go on forever, past manicured gardens and fountains that probably cost more than everything she had earned in her entire life combined. The front door was answered by a middle-aged Korean man in an impeccable suit. His face was neutral, professional, revealing nothing. "You are the new housekeeper," he said. Not a question. "Yes, sir," Elena Vargas. The agency sent my paperwork ahead. The man studied her for a long moment, and Elena felt the familiar flutter of fear in her stomach. Did he know? Could he tell just by looking at her that her documents weren't real? But he simply nodded. I am Mr. Kim. I manage the household staff and Mr. Park's domestic affairs. Follow me. The tour of the estate took nearly an hour. The main house had 12 bedrooms, 14 bathrooms, a commercial kitchen, a home theater, a wine cellar, a gym, and an indoor pool. There was a separate guest house, a pool house, staff quarters, and a building that Mr. Kim referred to only as the office, with a tone that suggested she should never approach it. The rules were extensive and absolute. Mr. Park values his privacy above all else, Mr. Kim explained, his voice carrying the weight of warnings that didn't need to be explicitly stated. You will not speak to him unless he speaks to you first. You will not enter his private study on the second floor under any circumstances. You will not discuss anything you see or hear in this house with anyone outside it. You will not have personal visitors during your employment. Personal phone use is prohibited during working hours. Elena nodded at each rule, committing them to memory. She had worked for wealthy people before, though none quite this wealthy. The rich had their eccentricities, their demands for privacy and control. She understood. Your quarters are in the staff wing, Mr. Kim continued. You will live on the premises. Your shift begins at 6 in the morning and ends at 8 in the evening. Sundays are your day off. Your first month is probationary. I understand, sir. Mr. Kim paused, studying her again with those unreadable eyes. The previous housekeeper lasted 3 months. The one before that, 6 weeks. Mr. Park is particular. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Elena met his gaze directly. I understand that I need to do my job well and not ask questions. Something flickered in Mr. Kim's expression. Surprise, perhaps, or approval. That's correct. Do you have any questions before you begin? She had dozens of questions. Who was Park Jae-min, really? What happened in that office building that she wasn't supposed to approach? Why did housekeepers keep quitting or being fired? But she asked none of them. No, sir, I'm ready to begin. Then begin. And with those 2 words, Elena Vargas's new life started. For the first 3 weeks, Elena barely saw her employer. Park Jae-min was a phantom in his own home. He left before dawn and returned well past midnight, moving through the estate like a shadow passing through shadows. The only evidence of his existence came in fragments. A coffee cup left in the kitchen sink, a jacket draped over a chair in the study, the faint scent of expensive cologne lingering in certain rooms. Elena cleaned. She cooked when the chef was off duty. She maintained the enormous house in perfect order. And when her shift ended, she retreated to her small but comfortable room in the staff quarters and counted the days until her first paycheck. She needed that money, every dollar of it. Her mother was sick, not the kind of sick that got better with rest and chicken soup, but the kind that required specialists and surgeries and medications that cost more per month than Elena earned in a year. Her mother had no insurance, of course. Undocumented immigrants didn't qualify for the programs that might have helped. They had tried free clinics, charity hospitals, payment plans that stretched into infinity, but her mother was getting worse, and the treatments she needed were beyond anything they could afford. So Elena worked. She had taken this job because it paid 4 times her previous salary, because it included room and board, which meant she could send almost everything home, because it was her last desperate hope of saving the woman who had sacrificed everything to give her a chance at a better life. She thought she was invisible in the Park household, just another employee, interchangeable and forgettable, exactly what she wanted to be. She was wrong. Jae-min had noticed her from the very first day. His home was equipped with a comprehensive security system that fed directly to his personal devices, cameras in every room except the bathrooms and staff quarters, motion sensors, facial recognition software that cataloged every person who entered his property. It was a precaution born of necessity. In his world, assassins could wear any face, and betrayal could come from the most unexpected directions. He had watched her enter his home that first morning, had observed the way she held herself straight despite the obvious nervousness in her hands. He had noted how her eyes swept over the wealth surrounding her without the hungry look he usually saw in new employees. She looked at his possessions the way someone might look at museum exhibits. Interesting, but not something she wanted for herself. He had expected another forgettable employee. In his experience, housekeepers fell into 2 categories: the terrified ones who fled within weeks, and the calculating ones who hoped to leverage their position for something: information, money, access. Neither type lasted long, and neither type interested him. But this one was different. It was something in her eyes. Behind the careful professionalism, behind the obvious need for this job, there was something else. A fire. a determination, a secret that she carried like a weight she refused to set down. Jae-min had built his empire on reading people. He could identify weakness the way a shark smelled blood in water. He could sense deception before it was fully formed, could measure a person's true intentions in a single glance. And everything about Elena Vargas told him she was hiding something significant. The question was what? The new housekeeper, he said to Mr. Kim one evening, not looking up from the documents spread across his desk. What do we know about her? Mr. Kim consulted his tablet with practiced efficiency. Elena Vargas, 28 years old. She listed her birthplace as El Paso, Texas. Previous employment includes cleaning services for several office buildings, a brief stint as a hotel maid at the Hilton downtown. Her references were satisfactory. Family: she sends money to an address in East Los Angeles every month. Significant amounts. Almost her entire salary from her previous jobs. The address is registered to a Maria Vargas, 62 years old. Her mother? We believe so, sir. Jae-min leaned back in his chair. What else? Mr. Kim hesitated. A rare occurrence that immediately captured Jae-min's attention. There may be some irregularities with her documentation, sir. Irregularities. Her social security card and work authorization appear legitimate, but our deeper verification found some inconsistencies. Nothing that would have flagged with the employment agency, but she might be undocumented. It's possible, sir. We could investigate further. No. Jae-min's voice was quiet but firm. Not yet. Just watch her. Report anything unusual. Mr. Kim nodded, but Jae-min caught the slight furrow in his brow. In 15 years of service, his head of household had never shown interest in domestic staff beyond ensuring they did their jobs competently. This was something new, something that made Mr. Kim uneasy. The surveillance revealed everything and nothing. Elena Vargas lived a life of almost painful simplicity. She worked her long shifts without complaint. She ate her meals alone in the staff kitchen. Always the same thing. Simple, inexpensive foods that suggested a lifetime of making do with less. She called her mother every night at exactly 9 o'clock. Conversations in Spanish that Jae-min's translation software captured in full. Those conversations broke something open in him. How are you feeling today, Mama? Better, mija. The new medicine helps with the pain. Good, good. I'm sending more money this week. I want you to see that specialist Dr. Rodriguez mentioned. Elena, you work too hard. You're going to make yourself sick. I'm fine, Mama. I'm eating well, sleeping well. The job is good. Lies, Jae-min noted. She ate barely enough to sustain her. She slept 5 hours a night at most. And the job was clearly terrifying her. He could see it in the way she flinched whenever she heard an unexpected sound, the way her eyes darted toward exits when she entered a room. But she never complained, never gave any indication of her fear. She just kept working, kept sending money, kept calling her mother every night with cheerful reassurances that everything was fine. When can you visit, mija? I miss you. Soon, Mama. Soon. I just need to save a little more. Make sure you have everything you need. I need my daughter. That's what I need. I know. Soon, I promise. Jae-min listened to these conversations night after night, telling himself it was just standard security protocol, that he needed to know who was living in his home. But somewhere along the way, the surveillance had become something else. He found himself watching her more than the security feeds from his business operations. Found himself noticing the way she hummed softly while she cleaned, old Mexican songs that his translation software identified as traditional ballads about love and loss. Found himself wondering what she thought about as she moved through his empty house, bringing order to a life that had none. The final piece of the puzzle came from her Sunday outings. Every week, on her day off, she took 3 buses to a free clinic in East LA. She would emerge hours later, sometimes with pamphlets, sometimes with prescription bottles, sometimes with nothing but a heaviness in her shoulders that suggested bad news. The clinic specializes in oncology services for uninsured patients, Mr. Kim reported. Based on the medication she's been picking up, we believe her mother has cancer, stage 3 or 4, given the treatment protocols. Jae-min was silent for a long moment. The mother has no health insurance? No, sir. She's not eligible for any public programs. Because she's undocumented too, Jae-min thought. The whole family, living in the shadows, trying to survive a system designed to crush them. He thought about his own mother, who had died when he was young. She had received the best care money could buy, and it still hadn't been enough. He thought about what it must be like to watch your mother die slowly, knowing that money you didn't have could save her. Sir? Mr. Kim prompted. Do you want me to continue the investigation? No. Jae-min's voice was rough. That's enough. He had learned what he needed to know. Elena Vargas was exactly what she appeared to be. A desperate woman working herself to exhaustion to save her dying mother. carrying false documents because the country she had lived in for over a decade refused to acknowledge her humanity. She was everything he wasn't: good, selfless, fighting an impossible battle with nothing but determination and love, and he couldn't stop thinking about her. The first time they truly spoke was 4 weeks into her employment. Elena was in the kitchen at 5:30 in the morning, preparing coffee and a light breakfast that she had learned Mr. Park preferred when he was home. She was humming softly, one of her mother's favorite songs, when she felt a presence behind her. She turned and froze. Park Jae-min stood in the doorway watching her. He was dressed in a dark suit, his black hair slightly disheveled as if he'd been running his hands through it, his eyes holding an intensity that made her breath catch. "You're early," he said. His voice was low, smooth, carrying an undertone she couldn't quite identify. Elena bowed her head slightly, her heart suddenly racing. "I apologize if I disturbed you, sir. I didn't realize you were home. I'm often home. I just keep irregular hours." He moved into the kitchen, and Elena had to fight the urge to step back. He noticed. Of course he noticed, but said nothing about it. "You've been here a month now," he said, pouring himself a cup of the coffee she had prepared. "Most housekeepers don't last that long." "I need the job, sir." "Why?" The question was simple, but the weight behind it was immense. Elena felt her pulse quicken. She had prepared for questions like this, had rehearsed careful answers that revealed nothing important. "I have financial obligations, family responsibilities." Jae-min sipped his coffee, studying her over the rim of the cup. "That's a very vague answer." "It's the truth, sir." "Is it?" Silence stretched between them. Elena kept her eyes lowered, her hands clasped in front of her. She could feel him analyzing her, dissecting her, searching for the crack in her armor. "Your mother is sick," he said quietly. Elena's head snapped up, her careful composure shattering. "How do you—" "I know many things, Miss Vargas. I make it my business to know who lives under my roof." His expression was unreadable. "Cancer, I believe?" She should deny it, should maintain the careful lies that kept her safe. But something in his eyes, something that looked almost like understanding, made the words die in her throat. "Yes," she whispered. "Breast cancer, stage 3. She needs surgery, chemotherapy, medications that cost more than I could earn in 10 years. And you're trying to pay for it all yourself. There's no one else." Jae-min set down his coffee cup. "Follow me." "Sir?" "Now." He walked out of the kitchen without waiting to see if she would follow. After a moment of frozen indecision, she did. He led her through the house to a door she had been explicitly forbidden to enter, the second-floor study that Mr. Kim had warned her about in terms that left no room for interpretation. But Jae-min pushed it open and gestured for her to enter. Elena stepped inside and stopped. She had expected, she didn't know what. Based on the warnings, based on the whispered conversations she had overheard between other staff members, she had imagined something dark, evidence of the crimes everyone seemed to hint at but never directly mention. Instead, she found a library. The walls were lined with books, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Real books, with worn spines that suggested they had actually been read. A massive desk sat near floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a stunning view of Los Angeles spread out below. And on the desk, a photograph. Jae-min noticed where her eyes had landed. "My mother," he said. "She died when I was 11. Cancer as well." Elena looked at the photo, a beautiful Korean woman with kind eyes, her arm around a young boy who gazed at the camera with a smile that the man beside her had clearly lost somewhere along the way. "She was sick for almost 2 years, Jae-min continued. "My father flew in specialists from all over the world. We had unlimited resources, the best medical care money could buy, but it wasn't enough." No, it wasn't. His voice was flat, controlled, but Elena could hear something raw beneath the surface. "I promised myself after she died that I would never feel that helpless again, that I would always have the power to protect the people I cared about." He turned to face her directly. "I'm going to pay for your mother's treatment." Elena stared at him. "What?" "Her surgery, her chemotherapy, her medications. All of it. I'll pay for everything." I don't understand. Why would you do that?" "Because I can." His eyes held hers with an intensity that made it impossible to look away. "Because you work for me, which means your problems are my problems. Because—" He stopped, something flickering across his face that she couldn't interpret. "Because watching someone sacrifice everything to save their mother and fail would destroy something in me that I didn't know still existed." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "I can't accept that. It's too much. The surgery alone costs over $200,000. And that's before. I know what it costs. I don't care what it costs." He stepped closer, and for the first time, his voice gentled. "You've been fighting this alone for how long?" "Years. Let someone help you." "But why?" The tears were falling now, and she couldn't stop them. "You don't know me. You don't owe me anything." Jae-min looked at her for a long moment, And when he spoke, his voice was rough with emotion he usually kept buried so deep he forgot it existed. Do you know what I see when I look at you, Elena? I see someone who works 18-hour days without complaint. Someone who sends every dollar she earns to save another person's life. Someone who carries the weight of an impossible situation and never asks for help. Never gives up, never stops fighting. He reached out slowly and wiped a tear from her cheek with his thumb. I've spent my entire adult life surrounded by people who want something from me. Power, money, connections. Everyone has an angle. Everyone is calculating what they can get. His hand lingered on her face. But you're the first person I've met in longer than I can remember who isn't trying to take anything. You're just trying to survive. To save someone you love. That's not special. That's just what you do for family. It is special. It's the most special thing I've ever seen. He let his hand fall. Let me help you, Elena. Please. If not for yourself, then for your mother. She wanted to say no. Every instinct she had developed over years of living in the shadows screamed that she should refuse. That accepting help from powerful men always came with strings attached. That nothing in this world was free. But she thought of her mother, growing weaker with each passing week. Thought of the specialist who had told her that, without aggressive treatment soon, the cancer would spread beyond any hope of recovery. Thought of all the prayers she had whispered in dark churches, begging God for a miracle. Maybe this was the miracle. Maybe it came in the form of a dangerous man with sad eyes, who understood loss in ways that transcended their different worlds. Okay, she whispered, okay, but I want to pay you back. Somehow, eventually, I want to pay you back. Jae-min smiled. A real smile that transformed his face, that made him look younger and softer and almost approachable. We'll discuss terms later. Right now, let's focus on saving your mother. Hey everyone, quick reminder. If you're loving this story, take a second to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Your support means everything. Now, let's get back to this incredible journey. The surgery was scheduled for the following month at UCLA Medical Center, one of the best hospitals in the country. Jae-min's people arranged everything. The specialists, the private room, the post-operative care. Elena tried to argue, to negotiate, to at least set up some kind of payment plan. Jae-min refused every attempt. The money means nothing to me, he told her. Your mother's life is not nothing. Focus on being there for her, not on owing me a debt. In the weeks leading up to the surgery, everything between them shifted. Jae-min began coming home earlier. He would find reasons to be in the kitchen when Elena was cooking, in the library when she was dusting, in the garden when she was tending the flowers. They would talk, first about her mother, about the treatment plans and the doctor's reports and the cautious optimism that was beginning to replace Elena's desperate fear. But then the conversations expanded. He asked about her childhood in Mexico, about crossing the border with her parents, about building a life in a country that often made her feel invisible. She told him stories she had never told anyone, about the fear that was her constant companion, about the dreams she had abandoned because they required papers she didn't have, about the strange grief of living in a place for over a decade and still not belonging. In turn, he told her things he had never told anyone, about his father's expectations and the weight of inheriting an empire he had never asked for, about the loneliness of power, the way it isolated you from genuine human connection until you forgot what it felt like to be truly known, about the crimes he had committed and ordered, the blood on his hands that no amount of charity or philanthropy could ever wash clean. You should be afraid of me, he said one evening, as they sat in his library watching the sun set over Los Angeles. Everyone else is. Should I be? She looked at him directly. Are you going to hurt me? Never. The word came out fierce. Absolute. I would never hurt you. Then why should I be afraid? Because of what I am, what I've done, the enemies I have, the danger that follows me everywhere. Elena was quiet for a moment, considering. When I was 19, she said finally, there was a raid at the factory where I worked. Immigration officers came in at dawn, before most of us even realized what was happening. They lined us up, checked papers. I didn't have papers. I had nothing but fake documents that wouldn't survive close inspection. Jae-min listened intently. I hid in a storage closet for 6 hours. 6 hours, barely breathing, listening to people I knew being loaded into vans, their cries as they were separated from their families. I thought about my mother, how she would never know what happened to me if they took me. I thought about dying in that closet rather than being caught. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly. I've lived with fear every day of my life since I was 16 years old. Jae-min, the kind of fear that never goes away, that wakes you up at 3 in the morning, that makes you flinch every time you see a police car. You want to know if I'm afraid of you? She shook her head slowly. You're the first person in 12 years who has made me feel safe. Something cracked open in Jae-min's chest. something he had kept walled off for so long he had forgotten it existed. "Elena, I know what you are. I figured it out. I'm not stupid. The security, the visitors who come at strange hours, the way everyone is afraid of you. I know this house, this life, is built on things I shouldn't ask about. And you're not running. Where would I run to?" She laughed softly without humor. "Back to the shadows? Back to working 3 jobs and watching my mother die slowly because I can't afford to save her? You've given me more in 1 month than this country has given me in 12 years. Maybe that makes me complicit. Maybe that makes me a bad person. But I'm tired of being pure and powerless. I'm tired of following all the rules and still losing everything." Jae-min reached out and took her hand. Her skin was rough from years of hard work, but her grip was strong. "You're not a bad person," he said quietly. "You're someone who's been failed by every system that was supposed to protect you, and you're surviving anyway. There's no shame in taking help when it's offered, even from a gangster, especially from a gangster. We understand survival in ways that respectable people never have to learn." Their eyes met, and something passed between them, an understanding, an acknowledgement of shared outsider status that transcended their vastly different circumstances. "I think I'm falling in love with you," Elena whispered. The words hung in the air, terrifying and exhilarating. "I know I am," Jae-min replied. "I tried not to. I told myself it was just curiosity, just interest, just attraction. But it's not. It's more than that. It's been more than that since the first moment I saw you standing in my kitchen, humming your mother's songs like you weren't terrified out of your mind. I was terrified, I know. That's what made it so remarkable. You were scared to death, and you did it anyway. You keep doing it anyway, every single day." He cupped her face in his hands, thumbs brushing away tears. She hadn't realized she was crying. "I can't promise you a normal life," he said. "I can't promise you safety or peace or any of the things you deserve. My world is dangerous, and being with me will make you a target in ways you can't even imagine. I've never had a normal life. Normal was never an option for me." "I'm serious, Elena. If we do this, if we're together, you need to understand what that means. Then help me understand." He kissed her. It was gentle at first, questioning, giving her every chance to pull away. But she didn't pull away. She pressed closer, her hands finding his chest, his heart pounding under her palms. The kiss deepened, and all the barriers between them, wealth and poverty, power and powerlessness, belonging and exile, crumbled into dust. When they finally separated, both breathless, Jae-min rested his forehead against hers. "This changes everything," he said. "I know. There's no going back from here. I don't want to go back." She pulled away slightly to look into his eyes. "For the first time in my life, I want to go forward. With you." He kissed her again, and this time, neither of them held back. The surgery was a success. Elena was sitting in the private hospital room, holding her mother's hand as Maria Vargas slowly emerged from anesthesia, when her phone buzzed with a message from Jae-min. "The surgeon says she came through beautifully. Full recovery expected. I'm handling everything, just focus on being with her." Elena typed back with one hand, reluctant to let go of her mother even for a moment. "I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to. Seeing you smile when you read that report is all the thanks I need." Maria's eyes fluttered open, confused and groggy from the medication. "Mija?" she whispered. "I'm here, Mama. I'm right here. The surgery went perfectly. The doctors got all of it. You're going to be okay." Maria's face crumpled with tears. "How? Mija, how did you afford—" "Don't worry about that. Don't worry about anything. Just rest, recover, let me take care of everything for once." "Elena, what did you do? What did you promise? I won't have you selling yourself to pay for—" "Mama, stop." Elena squeezed her hand firmly. "I didn't sell anything. I found someone who wanted to help. Someone good, despite what the world might think of him. Someone who understands what it means to lose a mother." Maria studied her daughter's face with the particular intensity of a parent who knows their child is keeping secrets. "You love him." It wasn't a question. Elena couldn't have denied it even if she wanted to. "Yes, I love him." "Is he dangerous?" "Yes." "Does he treat you well?" "Better than I ever dreamed anyone could treat me." Maria was quiet for a long moment, her thumb rubbing circles on Elena's hand the way she had done when Elena was a child, frightened by thunderstorms or bad dreams. "Then bring him to meet me," she said finally. "When I'm better, when I can sit up properly and look him in the eye, bring him to meet your mother. He'd like that. He's been asking about you, you know. Checking on your progress every day, making sure the doctors are giving you the best care. A dangerous man who cares about an old Mexican woman he's never met." Maria smiled weakly. Maybe there's hope for the world after all. The months that followed were the happiest of Elena's life. She moved out of the staff quarters and into Jae-min's private wing of the house. She still worked. She insisted on it, refusing to become a kept woman with no purpose beyond being decorative, but her role shifted from housekeeper to something that defied easy categorization. She managed the household, yes, but she also managed parts of Jae-min's life that had nothing to do with cleaning or cooking. She organized his charitable donations, ensuring that the money went to organizations that actually helped people rather than just providing tax benefits. She served as an unofficial advisor on community relations, helping him understand how to support immigrant communities in ways that respected their dignity rather than patronizing them. She brought a perspective to his world that none of his highly paid consultants had ever been able to provide. The perspective of someone who had lived in the shadows, who understood what it meant to be invisible. Maria recovered fully, moved to a better apartment that Jae-min quietly paid for, and learned to stop asking how Elena could suddenly afford the things she was providing. She met Jae-min on a Sunday afternoon, 3 months after her surgery, and spent the first hour grilling him with questions that would have terrified most men. Where was he from? What did his parents do? Did he go to church? Why wasn't he married yet? What exactly did he want with her daughter? Jae-min answered every question honestly, even the ones that made Elena cringe with embarrassment. Yes, his family had been involved in criminal enterprises. Yes, he had done things he wasn't proud of. Yes, he wanted to marry Elena if she would have him. Marry her? Maria's eyes widened. You want to marry my daughter? If she'll say yes. If you'll give your blessing. I know I'm not the man you would have chosen for her. I know my life comes with dangers and complications that no mother would want for her child. But I love her, Mrs. Vargas. I love her more than I knew I was capable of loving anyone, and I will spend every day of my life trying to be worthy of her. Maria looked at this man, this powerful, dangerous, wealthy man who sat in her modest apartment drinking 2 weak coffee without complaint and asking for permission to marry her daughter. You saved my life, she said quietly. Elena saved your life. I just paid for the medical bills. You know that's not the same thing. With respect, ma'am, it is. Money doesn't save anyone. Love does. Elena's love for you, that's what saved your life. I just removed one of the obstacles. Maria's eyes glistened with tears. She reached out and took Jae-min's hand. This man she had been prepared to dislike, to distrust, to discourage her daughter from seeing. You take care of her, she said fiercely. You protect her from whatever dangers your life brings, and if you ever make her cry, you'll find a way to make me regret it. Elena already warned me. Maria laughed, a sound Elena hadn't heard in years, not since before the cancer diagnosis. Then you have my blessing. Both of you have my blessing. The proposal came 3 months later, on the anniversary of the day Elena had first walked into Jae-min's house. He took her back to the library where he had first told her about his mother, where they had first truly seen each other. The room was filled with candles, hundreds of them, their flickering light casting dancing shadows on the walls of books. 1 year ago today, Jae-min said, you walked into my life with fake documents and real courage, and nothing has been the same since. Jae-min, let me finish. Please. She fell silent, her heart pounding. I've spent my entire adult life building walls, keeping people out, trusting no one, because trust is a weakness that gets people like me killed. I was so good at it that I forgot there was a person behind the walls. I forgot what it felt like to want something beyond power and money. I forgot what it felt like to be happy. He took her hands in his. You reminded me, not with grand gestures or dramatic declarations, but with the small things. The way you hum when you think no one's listening. The way you laugh at my terrible jokes. The way you never look at me with fear, even though you know exactly what I'm capable of. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a ring. A simple band with a single diamond, elegant rather than ostentatious, so different from what she would have expected from a man of his wealth. I chose this because it reminded me of you, he said, beautiful without being flashy, strong without being hard, perfect in its simplicity. He dropped to one knee. Elena Vargas, will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of the faith you put in me? Will you be my partner, my conscience, my reason to be better than I've ever been? Tears streamed down Elena's face. Yes, God, yes. 1,000 times, yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger and stood, pulling her into his arms and kissing her with a passion that made the candles seem dim by comparison. I love you, he murmured against her lips. I love you too, more than I ever thought I could love anyone. They stood there, in the library full of flickering light, two people from different worlds who had somehow found their way to each other. It was improbable. It was dangerous. It was absolutely, impossibly right. The wedding was planned for 6 months later. It would be a small ceremony. Jae-min's public profile required discretion, and Elena had no desire for spectacle, just family and close friends, in a private garden that Jae-min had transformed into something out of a fairy tale. Elena had never been happier. Her mother was healthy and strong. She was engaged to a man who looked at her like she was the center of the universe. For the first time in 12 years, She allowed herself to believe that everything might actually work out. She should have known better. The first sign of trouble came 3 weeks before the wedding. Elena was returning from a fitting for her wedding dress, a beautiful gown that Maria had cried over, when she noticed a car following her, a black sedan with tinted windows, keeping pace with her taxi through the streets of Los Angeles. She told herself it was nothing. Jae-min had enemies, and she had grown accustomed to the enhanced security that came with being part of his life. But this felt different. The car stayed with her for over an hour, through neighborhoods that had no connection to each other, through random turns that no coincidental driver would make. She texted Jae-min, "I think I'm being followed." His response was immediate. "Where are you? I'm sending people right now." Within minutes, 2 SUVs had materialized around her taxi, and the black sedan disappeared into traffic. Elena's heart was still pounding when she got home, when Jae-min met her at the door with fear in his eyes that he couldn't quite hide. "Who was it?" she asked. "I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out." The answer came 3 days later, and it was worse than either of them had imagined. "Immigration and Customs Enforcement," Mr. Kim reported, his face grim. "They've opened an investigation into Elena's documentation. They know about the fake papers." Elena felt the world tilt beneath her feet. "How?" Jae-min demanded. "Her documents passed every check. We made sure. Someone talked. Someone who knew the truth and sold it to the authorities." Mr. Kim hesitated. "We believe it was targeted, sir. Someone wanted to hurt you by going after her." "Who?" "We're still investigating, but the result is the same regardless of who's responsible." Elena is facing deportation proceedings. They've already issued a notice to appear before an immigration judge. Elena couldn't breathe. After everything, after 12 years of hiding, of working, of building a life in the only home she really knew, it was all going to end. She would be sent back to a country she barely remembered, separated from her mother, separated from Jae-min, everything she had built reduced to ashes. "No," Jae-min said. His voice was quiet, but there was steel in it. "No, this is not how this ends, sir. There's very little legal recourse. Then we find illegal recourse. We find every option, every loophole, every possibility. I don't care what it costs. I don't care what it takes. Elena is not being deported. Not while I'm alive to prevent it." He turned to her, taking her face in his hands, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Listen to me. I will not let them take you. I don't care if I have to buy every politician in Washington. I don't care if I have to fight the entire federal government. You are not leaving. Do you understand me? Jae-min, if there's no legal way, then we find another way. We always find another way." But even as he said the words, Elena could see the fear in his eyes, because some enemies couldn't be bought or intimidated. Some systems were bigger than any individual, no matter how powerful. For the first time in their relationship, Jae-min was facing something he couldn't control. The next 2 weeks were a nightmare. Jae-min threw every resource he had at the problem. He hired the best immigration lawyers in the country, a team of 6 attorneys who specialized in cases exactly like Elena's. He contacted political allies, called in favors, made promises and threats in equal measure. But the system moved with its own terrible momentum. Elena received a court date, then another notice, more severe than the first, then a letter informing her that she was being placed in detention pending her hearing, a bureaucratic term for prison, for a cell, for the thing she had feared every day of her adult life. "I won't let them take you," Jae-min said again and again, but his voice grew more desperate each time. "Maybe you should," Elena said one night. "Maybe you should let me go." He looked at her as if she had suggested he stop breathing. "What? I'm destroying your life. All the attention, the scrutiny. How long before they start investigating you? Before they find all the things you've worked so hard to hide? I'm not worth losing everything you've built. You're worth losing everything in the world." "Jae-min, no. Listen to me." He grabbed her hands, held them tight. "I don't care about my empire. I don't care about my money or my power or my reputation. None of it means anything without you. You are the only thing in my life that has ever felt real. The only thing that has ever made me feel like a human being instead of a monster." His voice cracked. "If they take you, they take everything that matters. So no, I will not let you go. I will not give up. I will fight until there are no options left. And then I will fight harder." Elena pressed her forehead to his, tears streaming down both their faces. "What if there's really no way? What if nothing works? Then I'll find you. Wherever they send you, I'll find you. I'll tear down borders and burn through bureaucracies and remake the entire immigration system if I have to." "That's impossible." "So was loving someone the way I love you. So was finding meaning in a meaningless life. Impossible is just what people call things that haven't been done yet." The day before her scheduled detention, a miracle happened. Or rather, something that looked like a miracle but was actually the result of millions of dollars, dozens of favors, and one very specific piece of information that Jae-min's investigators had uncovered about a certain federal official with certain indiscretions. The details would never be fully revealed. All Elena knew was that Mr. Kim arrived at the house at 6 in the morning with news that changed everything. "The investigation has been dropped," he announced. "All proceedings against Elena have been terminated." Elena stared at him, unable to process the words. "What? How?" Mr. Kim looked at Jae-min, who stood beside her with an expression of fierce triumph. "Let's just say that certain people decided it wasn't worth pursuing," Jae-min said carefully, "and that those people have been persuaded to facilitate a different outcome." "A different outcome? You've been approved for a special adjustment of status. Based on your upcoming marriage to a U.S. citizen and certain humanitarian considerations related to your mother's medical situation, you'll have legal residency within 30 days. Elena's legs gave out. Jae-min caught her, held her up, held her together as the impossible news sank in. "It's over," she whispered. "It's really over? It's really over. You're safe. You're staying. No one is ever going to threaten you with deportation again." She burst into tears. Not the silent, controlled crying she had perfected over years of hiding her emotions, but great racking sobs that shook her entire body. 12 years of fear, of hiding, of waking up every morning wondering if today would be the day they came for her, all of it releasing at once in a flood that seemed like it would never end. Jae-min held her through all of it, didn't say anything, didn't try to stop her, just held her and let her cry until there were no tears left. "I told you," he murmured when she finally quieted. "I told you I would find a way. I didn't believe you, I know, but I believed enough for both of us." She looked up at him, this man who had done the impossible for her, who had fought the entire United States government and won. "I don't know how to thank you. Marry me. That's all the thanks I need. I was already going to do that. Then marry me tomorrow. Marry me today. Marry me right now before anything else can go wrong." Elena laughed, a slightly hysterical sound that was half sob, half joy. "We can't get married right now. My mother would kill us both. Worth it. Our guests can come to the rescheduled ceremony. The important people are already here." She looked around the room, at Mr. Kim, who had served Jae-min for 15 years and had never once seen him this undone over another person, at the staff who had become family over the past year, at the life she had built in this house that had once seemed like a prison. "Okay," she said. "Okay, yes. Let's get married. Today. Right now, before anything else can go wrong." Jae-min's face broke into a smile of pure, uncomplicated joy, an expression she had rarely seen on him. "Mr. Kim, get me a judge. Get me a license. Get me whatever we need to make this legal." "Sir, that's not how it works." "Then make it work. I don't care what it takes. I'm marrying this woman today." Mr. Kim sighed, the long-suffering sigh of a man who had facilitated impossible things before and would undoubtedly do so again. "I'll make some calls." They were married that evening, in the garden that had been prepared for a ceremony still 3 weeks away. The flowers weren't perfect. Some of them hadn't even been planted yet. The caterer wasn't there, so they ordered pizza. The photographer was on vacation in Hawaii, so Mr. Kim took pictures on his phone with the grim determination of a man completing a military mission. But Elena wore her wedding dress, the one she had been fitted for just weeks ago, and Maria was there, crying happy tears and promising to strangle them both for not letting her prepare properly. And Jae-min looked at her like she was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. "I, Park Jae-min, take you, Elena Vargas, to be my wife," he said, his voice steady and sure. "I promise to love you in sickness and in health, in poverty and in wealth, in good times and in bad. I promise to protect you from every danger I can control and to stand beside you against every danger I cannot. I promise to be worthy of your faith in me, to be the man you see when you look at me, to spend every day of my life earning the love you've given me." Elena's voice shook with emotion when she spoke her vows. "I, Elena Vargas, take you, Park Jae-min, to be my husband. I promise to love you with all that I am and all that I will become. I promise to see the man behind the power, the heart behind the walls, the person you've been afraid to show the world. I promise to be your partner, your conscience, your safe place when the world is too much. I promise that no matter what comes, you will never be alone again." The judge pronounced them husband and wife. Jae-min kissed her with a passion that made everyone in the garden look away politely. Maria cried. Mr. Kim cleared his throat uncomfortably, and Elena felt, for the first time in her entire life, like she truly belonged somewhere. "I love you," Jae-min murmured against her lips. "I love you too, more than I ever thought I could love anyone. No more hiding," he said. "No more fear. You're home now. Really home, I know." She pressed her forehead to his. "I finally know." Years passed and they were happy. not perfectly happy. Happiness is not something anyone achieves perfectly, but happy enough in the way that matters. They had their fights and their challenges, their moments of doubt and fear. Jae-min's world was still dangerous, and Elena was forever learning how to navigate the complicated ethics of loving a man whose empire was built on morally questionable foundations. But they also had their joys. Maria lived for another 15 years, long enough to see her grandchildren born, twins, a boy and a girl, who had their mother's warmth and their father's intensity. Jae-min slowly, carefully extracted himself from the most violent aspects of his business, channeling more and more resources into legitimate enterprises. It wasn't perfect. It was never going to be perfect, but it was progress. Elena finished her education, getting the degree she had always dreamed of but never dared pursue. She started a foundation for immigrant families facing deportation, using Jae-min's resources and her own hard-won understanding of the system to help others navigate the nightmare she had barely escaped. And every year, on the anniversary of that chaotic, imperfect, absolutely perfect wedding in the half-finished garden, they renewed their vows. "I would do it all again," Jae-min said on their 20th anniversary, holding his wife as the sun set over Los Angeles. "Every illegal maneuver, every favor called in, every risk and every danger, I would burn down the entire world for you." "I know you would," Elena replied. "That's what scares me sometimes." "Does it?" "A little, but mostly it makes me feel safe. Like no matter what happens, you'll find a way to fix it." "I will. I always will." She rested her head on his shoulder, watching the city lights begin to flicker on below them. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "All the normal things you gave up? The chance for a regular life, with someone who didn't come with a deportation order?" Jae-min laughed. "I was never going to have a normal life. That wasn't in the cards for me. But with you, I have something better. I have a real life, a meaningful life, a life worth living, even with all the complications, especially with all the complications. The complications are what make it real." They stood in silence for a moment, watching their children play in the garden below, watched over by Maria and Mr. Kim, two people who had become family through choice rather than blood. "I love you," Elena said. "I love you too, today and tomorrow and every day after that. Promise?" "I promise, and you know I keep my promises." She smiled, leaning into his warmth. "Yes," she said, "I know." The end. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss another upload. Thank you so much for watching. Your support means everything to this channel. And remember, sometimes the impossible happens when love is strong enough. Until next time, take care of yourselves and the people who matter most to you.